Good to have you this hour. My partner in news, out and about in Sandton, tracking down the BRT system and some of its challenges this morning. Good morning to you, G. I mean, what can we expect in this hour just in terms of conversations and trying to get into some truths about where we stand with BRT and when we can expect them to be operational?
I don't think there's any doubt in the truth as to, if we take ourselves back to the World Cup terms. Morning, everyone. That the idea for a bus rapid transit system was there. The PR was there. People were using it. It did actually work. There seemed to be conversations with the stakeholders. But where are we more than a decade later? I'm standing on the sidelines of Catherine Street, and what I've seen so far is lots of taxis coming past, a few Gautrain buses. But what exactly is happening with the structure behind me? Now, this is just one of them, of course. The BRT stations, the rear via buses, if you'd like to call it that. That's how some people will refer to it. The idea was to link, for example, areas in Soweto, like Alexandra, to the hub of Sandton. That would have created jobs. It would have helped people get to their jobs more quickly. And as we continue our focus on the cost of living, it probably would have made a big difference for public transport to regular South Africans. Let's bring in, before he freezes to death, the Gauteng Transport MEC, Jacob Mamabolo. MEC, good morning. I'm glad you're smiling. I'm frozen. I'm basically an ice cube at this point. Good morning. Morning. Good. Thanks for joining us this morning. There's a bit of confusion. Let's just start with this station. What is happening here? Is this functioning? Was it functioning? There's a lot of confusion. Morning.
Firstly, good morning to you, to all the viewers, and thank you for inviting us. Just before I comment on this, I think the overall picture about and our impressions about the BRT system is that it is a good system that it's meant to create a seamless, integrated mobility in the province. But there are still challenges, not only here in Sandton, but if you go to Ekurhuleni, to City of Tshwane, there are still infrastructure rollout projects that are not yet complete. This is definitely worrying and concerning, but we believe that we should be able to engage with the municipalities, because these are projects that are run by various metros in the province, to make sure that you know, the positive impact and benefits of the BRT system are not undermined by incomplete projects like what we see here.
I imagine, as the MEC for Transport, this is actually beyond having to deal with the stakeholders and the various issues. This is annoying for you, because this would have made a big difference. This is something you could have gone back to those who support something like BRT and said, look, we are providing a good transport system. It should be working. It should be easy. You should be able to put this as a feather in your cap, MEC, but you're being held back by a bunch of things. When you talk about issues at municipality, give me an example. Like what?
Well, as I was saying that, I mean, I think the overarching principle that we must all take into account is that these are run by the three metros. So City of Joburg has got its own system, City of Tshwane and Ekurhuleni. And for us as the province, what is important is the impact that it creates in what I call a seamless movement. But the challenge is each one of the cities still have got a difficulty with completing the rollout of the project. You can see in an area like Louiswater, there is still similar challenges. You look at Tembisa in the city of Ekurhuleni, and then of course in the city of Tshwane. But the point I'm just making is, for us, we can at most appeal to the cities to make sure that they complete this type of projects and initiatives, so that across the province we can have an add-on and value-add service in order to make sure that we transport the masses of the people to different stations.
That's the idea, and it would make a huge difference as well. So when we talk about the three metros that are handling this, when we talk about their challenges, what is it? Is it a money issue? Are they having to negotiate? I just saw a taxi drive away. Are they having to negotiate with the taxi associations? Is there a problem with routes, for example? When we say there's problems, like what?
Okay, so there are multiple problems. The first one is just the resources and capacity to lay out the capital stock, completing projects. So that's one issue. And of course, that will relate to resources as well. We know that municipalities have suffered massive losses in terms of revenues because of COVID-19, poor tax base, poor commuter, and poor household revenues. So that's the second issue. The other big problem, and one example is in the city of Tshwane into Main Lane. There you have got difficult negotiations between the taxi industry and the city of Tshwane, because what is required is, in order for modes of transport to complement and support each other and not attack each other, the rollout of BRT system is dependent on the partnership between the taxi industry, because they have to give in and sit their operating licenses. They want to know in turn what are they getting, which is sustainable to keep them going. So
you can
those type of
have
discussions
concerns.
are also causing problems.
You can understand their concern. It's essentially going to eat into their profit, isn't it? That's their concern, isn't it?
Yes, because they were saying to me that they are not happy with the amount of money that the cities give them as a once-off payment. So they believe that first, the vehicle itself, it means your vehicle must move out of the road. Secondly, you're going to lose your license. So, and of course, future revenue. So they are saying the once-off payment and what they're getting is not enough. But again, there's a part of it which is successful, where, for example, in the city of Joburg, we have seen the taxi industry being well incorporated with a commercial vehicle in which they are actually the owners. So the successes and the negotiations and the learning of lessons across the metros, I think, is something that can be improved. But there's no doubt that the BRT system is very good and is adding to the diversity of our transportation systems.
However, it should be doing more. I'm sure all these years later, it's more than a decade later, MEC, it should be doing more. And I'm sure we'll get to a timeline in a moment. We'll discuss timelines now. But it almost seems like it's like the rail issue, isn't it? It should be working effectively, but then we deal with vandalism. And there's been multiple reports of vandalism at BRT stations over the years. It's an ongoing issue for you, isn't it?
For us, this is so we have got a summit that we'll be holding with the different members of mayoral committees on the 20th and the 21st of this month, in order to discuss the challenges that are there in the transport space, including maintenance of infrastructure, rollout of new roads, and such as these ones. So there is a conversation that will be taking place between us and the MMCs of transport. The other difficulty, of course, is that in some instances, this infrastructure is not necessarily rolled out by MMCs of transport, like you could have Johannesburg, the properties agency of the city, which is driving most of its infrastructure development. So integration and coordination within the city itself is very much important.
And I want to just talk about one more thing regarding BRT. Let's talk timelines. When, in your mind, MEC, could we see this working? Right now, this is still essentially a construction site. The structure is up, but there's not much happening here, A. And then B as well, we're talking about the costs of living here on eNCA. It's part of this focus. What difference, as a Gautrain bus drives past us, just by the way, what difference would this make to commuters' pockets in the end? Last question on the BRT.
So in order for us to give you the roadmap of how we are going to address this issue with the municipalities, I think we'll have to come back to you, because as I'm saying to you, there's a conversation that we're going to have in the next 2 weeks. And out of that conversations, we'll be able to say to you, these are the specific timelines and the roadmap and milestones towards completing this. In terms of giving people back money, cutting costs of travel, we know with the different surveys that we have done, the biggest problem for households is that they spend a huge percentage of their income on transport costs. I'm very much pleased that today we've got a conference national with the Minister of Transport on the rail policy and what that is going to do to the transport space in the country. So all these conversations, I can assure you, we will definitely come back to yourselves. We always do, and say, now this is and we'll invite you to these conversations before the end of the month. In those conversations, we will ask each MMC in the 3 cities, what is the roadmap? Because also this is causing big problems in terms of movement. They tend to slow traffic, cause a bit of congestion. Yeah, exactly. So it's not just about commuting. The delays in laying out this affect the space that we need to have smooth, efficient, and of course smart movement of traffic. So we do need to deal with this urgently.
3-lane road, but you're quite right, MEC, it's now a 2-lane road as well. I just want to, we need to, before we start saying goodbye to you, I'm sure you're well aware of the statement from the Democratic Alliance, shadow MEC for Transport and Roads, saying that the department, Gauteng Transport Department's underspent budget. What happened? 700 million rand underspent is the allegation.
So the first thing is that in that amount of money, about 500 million of it is ring-fenced for, is money ring-fenced for the bus subsidy. So in his statement, is confusing the issues in the sense that he believes you can just arbitrarily take money meant for buses and use it for the road. You can't do that. No, the law can't allow you to do that. And we can't be breaking the law when we took oath of office to promote the law. The second part is that then there's a portion of it, about 150, that was meant for an expansion of the road network. You will know, and the viewers will agree, that planning the road infrastructure was severely impacted by the lockdowns, the shutdowns that we have had, and that's why we are sitting with that unspent money. And then, of course, the part of it, it's an administrative issue. So in the overall, I think we must dismiss with the contempt it deserves the notion that you can just take money, arbitrarily redirect it into other areas, when in actual fact, they know for a fact that the policy of government is grants are specifically meant for certain activities. So this is a very toxic populist stance that the DA is trying to take to paint a picture that, you can just do as you wish. Maybe during apartheid you could do that because there were no laws there. There was a rule of big, powerful, some of them even madmen like P.W. Gordon. So you can't, in a democratic dispensation, just arbitrarily do things the way you like as a member of the executive. That can't work. It shouldn't be encouraged.
So that's the response to the statement. MEC, I'm going to say goodbye to you in a moment before we both freeze to death here. Just help me. So you're saying to me you're going to come back to me to talk about BRT and the discussions you're going to have today. What's that going to be about 2 weeks from now, and what are you hoping to tell me?
What we need is first an engagement with the municipalities, and I'm saying to you, in mid-June, we're talking to them. Once they give us feedback, we will then say to you, we are now in a better position to give you valuable data and information once we have engaged with them, because it will not help to say to you, let's have a conversation when we have not exhausted the consultation, the engagements. We also need to hear from the taxi industry across Ikuruleni, City of Tshwane and Joburg. So in no time, we'll be coming to you to say, we're now ready to give you feedback. I can see that you want to tie me to a date, but I'm pleading with you, allow us to exhaust all these discussions. We will definitely come back to you, as we always do.
Hopefully we can find somewhere warmer this time to do it as well.
Let it not be here.
MEC, thank you very much indeed. You can see how just complicated the situation is. Tumza, as I come back to you, MEC for Roads and Transport in Gauteng, Jacob Mamabolo. There is a big issue. The idea of BRT is not dead yet, but there are complications around the 3 metros that need to be consulted on this. It should work, and I think this is what's so frustrating for all of us as we look at how to save money, how to lower our costs. Systems like this, it should be working. It works around the world. It works in other countries. BRT is not a unique idea to South Africa, so it should work here. Why isn't it? As the MEC says, he'll come back onto this show. He said mid-June, end of June.
Once we have concluded the processes, we will come back to you.
There we go. Once processes are concluded, Tumsa will come back. They'll come back to us and tell us what is happening. Of course, we'll keep a very close eye on how that's being done. Let's come back to you for the moment.
Yeah, if there's one thing that you should be aware of when it comes to the MEC of Transport, is that he will promise you a follow-up conversation. He will invite you back for a follow-up conversation. But you're absolutely right, Gareth. Those systems should be working. I mean, Ria Vaya alone, loosely translated, means we're moving. we're moving. That's what the promise to South Africans was. It's not happening at this point. I heard the MEC there talking about how different metros and municipalities have a role to play here. That's why further engagement with those stakeholders need to take place as to why they're not moving, as their name says. And we'll come back to you, partner, with more of those conversations out in Sandton at Catherine Street for us. That's my partner in news, Gareth Edwards.